God said, stop being a nice woman. That sentence alone shakes everything inside you because you were trained, conditioned, and expected to be nice your entire life. You were told that niceness is holiness, niceness is humility, niceness is womanhood, niceness is Christianity. You were shaped to believe that pleasing people is pleasing God, but heaven is raising its voice to tell you something radically different. God said, stop being a nice woman because niceness has chained you, drained you, and blinded you more than sin ever did. Niceness has made you silent when you should speak, weak when you should stand, passive when you should discern, and available when you should be protected. Niceness has made you tolerate what God told you to walk away from, accept what God uprooted, and stay in places where His Spirit already departed. Niceness has made you surrender your identity, your anointing, your boundaries, and your calling to people who never respected your purpose. God said, stop being a nice woman because niceness is not a fruit of the Spirit. The Bible never said be nice. It said be kind, be wise, be discerning, be courageous, be strong, be vigilant, be holy. But niceness is something society created to weaken women, silence women, confuse women, disarm women, and keep women controlled. Niceness is not a divine assignment. It is a social expectation. And God is breaking that expectation off you in this season. You have been applauded for being nice, but heaven is grieving because your niceness has cost you your peace. You have been celebrated for being nice, but the kingdom is mourning because your niceness has suffocated your gifts. People love you for being nice, but God is calling you to be powerful. And these two are not the same. Niceness is artificial, power is spiritual. Niceness is external, power is internal. Niceness is performative, power is transformative. Niceness is about them, power is about Him. You were not born to be a nice woman, you were born to be a chosen woman. You were called to be a warrior, a voice, a vessel, a breakthrough carrier, a destiny protector, a lineage changer, a mountain shaker, a demon disruptor. But niceness has made you forget who you are. Niceness told you, don't speak, you might offend. God told you, cry aloud and spare not. Niceness told you, don't set boundaries, people won't like it. God told you, guard your heart above all else. Niceness told you, let it go, tolerate it, keep peace at any cost. God told you, what fellowship does light have with darkness? Niceness told you, accept everything, surrender everything, ignore everything. God told you, resist the devil and he will flee. Niceness has become your spiritual weakness. You think you are being Christian, but you are being controlled. You think you are being humble, but you are being drained. You think you are being loving, but you are losing yourself. You think you are being peaceful, but you are sacrificing your destiny. God said, stop being a nice woman because niceness is not protecting you. It is exposing you to spiritual predators. Niceness is not representing Christ. It is misrepresenting your identity. Niceness is not righteousness. It is your fear wearing a holy mask. And heaven is ripping off that mask. Every time you said yes when God told you no, it was niceness. Every time you let someone stay who God evicted, it was niceness. Every time you supported someone who drained you, it was niceness. Every time you tolerated disrespect in the name of peace, it was niceness. Every time you prayed for someone who continually abused your trust, it was niceness. Every time you accepted treatment that broke your heart just to keep a relationship, it was niceness. But God did not create you to be nice, He created you to be wise. Wisdom is not passive. Wisdom does not tolerate foolishness. Wisdom does not entertain manipulation. Wisdom does not stay silent in injustice. Wisdom does not give access to untrustworthy hearts. Wisdom does not remain where dishonor lives. Niceness has made you a doormat, but God created you to be a gatekeeper. Niceness has made you a people pleaser, but God created you to be a purpose walker. Niceness has made you agreeable, but God created you to be anointed. Niceness has made you fear rejection, but God created you to fear Him alone. Niceness has made you bend, shrink, and disappear, but God created you to stand, grow, and shine. A nice woman apologizes for her strength. A God-led woman uses her strength. A nice woman hides her voice. A God-led woman commands atmospheres. A nice woman accepts anything. A God-led woman tests every spirit. A nice woman avoids confrontation. A God-led woman confronts what threatens her calling. A nice woman is available to everyone. A God-led woman is accessible only by divine permission. God said, "Stop being a nice woman because you have become predictable to the enemy." He knows you will say yes. He knows you won't walk away. He knows you won't confront him. He knows you won't guard yourself. He knows you will overgive. He knows you will stay silent. And your silence has become his playground. Your niceness has become his habitat. Your openness has become his invitation. Your availability has become his advantage. The enemy is not afraid of nice women. He is afraid of obedient women. Nice women can be manipulated, but obedient women cannot. Nice women can be controlled, but obedient women walk in discernment. Nice women can be silenced, but obedient women roar. Nice women can be misled, but obedient women hear the voice of God. And God is calling you back to obedience, not the obedience of men, but the obedience of heaven. The obedience where you choose conviction over approval. The obedience where you prioritize purpose over relationships. The obedience where your boundaries reflect your spiritual identity. The obedience where you stop sacrificing your soul just to maintain an image of being nice. Niceness is not your assignment. Transformation is. Niceness is not your calling. Purpose is. Niceness is not your mission. Obedience is. Niceness is not your destiny. Influence is. Niceness is not your identity. Holiness is. The woman God is raising in this season is not a nice woman, but a kingdom woman. And a kingdom woman is not passive, she is powerful. She is not available, she is aligned. She is not controlled, she is intentional. She is not drained, she is discerning. She is not silent, she is strategic. She is not weak, she is rooted. She is not manipulated, she is anchored. She is not confused, she is guided by the Spirit. And that is why God is dismantling your niceness. He is stripping away that false costume of politeness you wore to survive. He is removing that fake peace you created by suppressing your truth. He is tearing down that fear-driven identity that kept you small. He is breaking that emotional slavery that made you addicted to approval. He is crushing that passiveness that made you feel obligated to tolerate mistreatment. Because niceness is not the reason God blessed you, but it is the reason many of your blessings were delayed. Niceness is not why people love you, but it is why people drained you. Niceness is not why some relationships lasted, but it is why they lasted longer than they should have. Niceness is not why you were chosen, but it is why you have struggled to step into your calling. Niceness has made you exhausted, tired, empty, resentful, and spiritually dehydrated. You have given to people who never gave back. You have invested in people who never valued your investment. You have helped people who never helped you heal. You have supported people who never supported your purpose. You have stood with people who never stood with you. You have poured into people who ripped holes into your soul. You have forgiven people who kept wounding you. You have covered people who exposed you. You have rescued people who watched you drown. And after all of that, they still expected more from you. But heaven is interrupting that cycle. God is calling you out of emotional slavery and into spiritual authority. He is calling you to stop saying yes when he said no. He is calling you to stop excusing behavior he already judged. He is calling you to stop accepting pain he never assigned. He is calling you to stop tolerating people who disrespected your destiny. He is calling you to stop sacrificing your peace for relationships he never ordained. You are not a peacekeeper, you are a peacemaker. There is a difference. Peacekeepers avoid conflict. Peacemakers confront what breaks peace. Peacekeepers stay silent. Peacemakers speak truth. Peacekeepers suppress themselves. Peacemakers stand in alignment with God. Peacekeepers try to please everyone. Peacemakers obey God even if it offends everyone. God is not calling you to be nice. He is calling you to be whole. Niceness bends to people. Wholeness bows to God. Niceness hides your feelings. Wholeness honors your emotions. Niceness ignores red flags. Wholeness respects boundaries. Niceness avoids truth. Wholeness embraces reality. Niceness gives everything. Wholeness gives wisely. You have spent years being the nice woman who loved too much, trusted too much, forgave too quickly, tolerated too long, apologized for things that were not your fault, lowered your standards, silenced your worth, and abandoned parts of yourself to keep relationships alive. But God is calling you out of that version of yourself. He is calling you into the version He originally designed. A woman who knows who she is, whose she is, and why she is here. A woman who walks with holy confidence. A woman who guards her spirit. A woman who honors her value. A woman who discerns motives. A woman who chooses her circle carefully. A woman who doesn't apologize for her standards. A woman who obeys God above all else. God said, stop being a nice woman, because your destiny requires a stronger version of you. The path you are about to walk requires discernment, not niceness. The doors you are about to enter require boldness, not politeness. The people you are about to meet require boundaries, not availability. The calling you are about to activate requires courage, not compliance. The season you are stepping into requires you to be led by conviction, not controlled by approval. You cannot carry both niceness and purpose into the next chapter. One will destroy the other. And God is insisting that purpose must win. A woman's misplaced kindness can become the reason she keeps attracting the same pain over and over again, because when a woman leads with softness without wisdom, she becomes spiritually predictable, emotionally accessible, and relationally vulnerable to people who are not assigned to her life. Many women believe their kindness is a holy offering, but if kindness is not aligned with discernment, it becomes a trap that repeats the same cycle of heartbreak, betrayal, disappointment, and emotional exhaustion. A woman keeps meeting the same kind of man, the same draining friends, the same manipulative leaders, the same toxic patterns, because she has not yet learned that kindness without boundaries is an open door for spiritual parasites. Heaven is not attacking your kindness. Heaven is confronting the way you distribute it. Because your kindness is not supposed to be thrown everywhere like seeds on concrete. It is supposed to be sown in the right soil, with the right people, at the right time, and under divine instruction. There is a painful truth many women never confront. You don't attract what you deserve. You attract what you allow. When a woman gives too freely, loves too quickly, forgives too fast, accommodates too easily, and silences herself too often, she unconsciously teaches people how to treat her. When she overfunctions, others underfunction. When she tolerates nonsense, others continue giving nonsense. When she avoids conflict, others ignore her needs. When she always says yes, others stop asking what she wants. When she shrinks herself, others grow comfortable taking advantage of her. She becomes a magnet for takers, leeches, and spiritual opportunists who know she will never walk away. And as long as she remains emotionally available without discernment, she will keep meeting the same wolves wearing different clothing. People do not repeat patterns in your life unless they know you will participate. Pain repeats when you refuse to break the agreement that allows it. A woman repeats heartbreak not because she is cursed, but because she hasn't learned what behavior, mindset, or boundary is missing. She repeats cycles, not because God is silent, but because she is ignoring the inner voice telling her, this is familiar. This is the same pattern in a new face. This is the same disappointment dressed in a new opportunity. A woman who operates only from kindness does not recognize danger early. She recognizes it after she is already wounded. She doesn't see red flags. She gives them excuses. She doesn't walk away at signs of disrespect. She prays the person becomes better. She doesn't guard her soul. She gives unlimited access to people who should have been kept outside the gates of her life. Misplaced kindness becomes a spiritual blindfold. It makes you overlook what God is revealing. It makes you justify what the Holy Spirit is warning you about. It makes you attach yourself to assignments God never approved. It makes you stay in relationships God already ended. It makes you trust people who have no spiritual integrity. It makes you defend people God exposed. And every time you choose to be nice instead of obedient, you step into another cycle of the same pain, wearing a different disguise. A woman who keeps attracting emotional pain often believes something is wrong with her ability to love, but the real issue is her failure to protect her love. She thinks she has a broken heart, but the truth is she has broken boundaries. She thinks she has bad luck, but the truth is she has mismanaged access. She thinks she is too sensitive, but the truth is she is too available. She thinks she is too emotional, but the truth is she is too tolerant. She thinks she is too forgiving, but the truth is she forgives without requiring change. She thinks she is too loyal, but the truth is she is loyal to people who have not earned it. A woman's kindness becomes misplaced when it is given without discernment. Discernment is what separates divine connections from demonic distractions. Discernment is what tells you who deserves your presence, your energy, your compassion, your support, your loyalty. Without discernment, your kindness becomes your curse. With discernment, your kindness becomes a weapon. When a woman has discernment, she no longer attracts users, she attracts builders. She no longer attracts liars, she attracts truth bearers. She no longer attracts manipulators, she attracts protectors. She no longer attracts emotional projects, she attracts spiritual partners. Because discernment elevates her standard of access. Many women misplace their kindness because they confuse loneliness with destiny. They give too much because they fear being alone. They tolerate disrespect because they fear rejection. They stay with people who drain them because they fear starting over. They keep broken friendships because they fear confrontation. They entertain relationships that have expired because they fear change. But fear-led kindness is not kindness. It is bondage disguised as compassion. And as long as fear dictates where your kindness flows, your heart will continue to be a target. A woman who keeps attracting pain is not weak, she is untrained. She has not yet learned the divine strategy of protecting her heart. She has not learned the strength of saying no. She has not learned the power of stepping back. She has not learned the wisdom of silence. She has not learned the authority of boundaries. She has not learned that kindness without balance becomes a self-inflicted wound. She has not learned that kindness without standards becomes an invitation for broken people to break her further. Misplaced kindness comes from a belief that loving everyone is holy. But true holiness requires wisdom. Even Jesus did not give equal access to everyone. He had the crowds, the 70, the 12, the 3, and then the one he loved. His love was perfect, but his access was selective. He fed thousands, taught hundreds, walked with 12, confided in 3, but revealed his deepest revelations to 1. Kindness does not mean access. Compassion does not mean closeness. Forgiveness does not mean familiarity. Love does not mean tolerance. A woman who understands this stops attracting pain because she learns to align her kindness with divine order. She learns that she can love someone and still walk away. She learns that she can forgive someone and still protect her soul. She learns that she can be kind without being used. She learns that she can care deeply without losing herself. She learns that she can bless others without burning herself out. She learns that she can offer grace without offering unlimited access. She learns that she can be compassionate without being controlled. She learns that she can serve people without sacrificing her identity. Many women attract repeated pain because they don't listen to the warning signs in their spirit. They feel discomfort, but they call it insecurity. They feel hesitation, but they call it overthinking. They feel conviction, but they call it fear. They feel dishonor, but they call it misunderstanding. They feel God pulling them away, but they think they must stay to prove their loyalty. They feel the Holy Spirit whispering, "This is not your assignment," but they continue out of obligation, attachment, or guilt. Misplaced kindness makes a woman misinterpret spiritual warnings as emotional reactions. But a woman who wakes up spiritually begins to see patterns. She begins to notice that the same type of people show up because she has not changed the spiritual door they walk through. She begins to notice that the same heartbreak keeps happening because she has not changed the way she chooses, discerns, or guards herself. She begins to notice that the same disrespect keeps repeating because she has not enforced a boundary. She begins to notice that the same disappointment keeps occurring because she keeps ignoring the truth. She begins to notice that the same emotional pattern repeats because she keeps nurturing what she should release. The truth is that people can sense when a woman is afraid to lose them. And when people sense that fear, they begin to take advantage of it. Misplaced kindness communicates desperation. It tells people you will stay no matter how you are treated. It tells them they can return after hurting you. It tells them they can disrespect you and still have access. It tells them they can drain your energy without consequence. It tells them they can disappear and come back whenever they want. Misplaced kindness teaches others that your heart is an open buffet and they can take whatever they want without giving anything in return. But there is another truth. When a woman realigns her kindness with wisdom, the wrong people automatically lose access. Not because she becomes hard, but because she becomes whole. A whole woman does not attract brokenness disguised as love. A whole woman does not entertain people who dishonor her. A whole woman does not give chances to people who abuse them. A whole woman does not negotiate her value. A whole woman does not sacrifice her peace for relationships. A whole woman does not allow emotional chaos into her spirit. A whole woman does not let loneliness dictate her choices. A whole woman does not confuse toxicity with loyalty. A whole woman does not keep repeating the same painful cycles because she refuses to perform the same painful behaviors. Your patterns change when your standards change. Your relationships change when your boundaries change. Your experiences change when your expectations change. Your destiny changes when your decisions change. Your life changes when your kindness becomes aligned with wisdom rather than fear, obligation, or guilt. Because the truth is, you do not lose people when you stop misplacing your kindness. You simply lose the people who were benefiting from your lack of boundaries. Many women think God is silent during their painful cycles, but He has been speaking through discomfort, through spiritual exhaustion, through recurring red flags, through emotional uneasiness, through broken peace. Pain is not always punishment. Sometimes it is information. It is evidence of what must change. It is the voice of your spirit telling you that the version of yourself that attracted this pain must evolve. A woman keeps meeting the same pain until she becomes a version of herself that will no longer accept it. Pain stops repeating when discernment takes over. Pain stops repeating when wisdom grows. Pain stops repeating when boundaries strengthen. Pain stops repeating when identity becomes clear. Pain stops repeating when self-respect becomes non-negotiable. Pain stops repeating when the woman refuses to return to the version of herself that tolerated what God never required her to endure. Misplaced kindness is a pattern you must break, because heaven is preparing you for relationships that require emotional strength, spiritual clarity, and mental stability. You cannot walk into a new season carrying old ways of giving yourself away. The next chapter of your life requires upgraded discernment. Not everyone deserves your kindness. Not everyone deserves access to your heart. Not everyone deserves your time. Not everyone deserves your support. Not everyone deserves your loyalty. Not everyone deserves your softness. Not everyone deserves your sacrifice. Not everyone deserves the privilege of your presence. Because you are not ordinary, you are chosen. Your kindness is valuable. Your compassion is powerful. Your love is transformational. Your presence is purposeful. And because of that, you cannot afford to misplace your kindness anymore. Heaven cannot elevate a woman who refuses to confront what is destroying her, because elevation requires separation, transformation, revelation, and confrontation. A woman who wants to rise must first be willing to see what is keeping her low. She must be willing to face the truth she has been avoiding, acknowledge the patterns she has been excusing, recognize the people she has been protecting, and expose the lies she has been believing. God cannot heal what you hide. He cannot transform what you tolerate. He cannot deliver what you defend, and He cannot promote what you refuse to confront. Confrontation is not about fighting people. It is about facing the spiritual forces, internal fears, and emotional wounds that have shaped your decisions. It is about looking at the version of yourself that pain created and deciding that she cannot come with you into the next season. A woman who cannot confront her fears repeats them. A woman who cannot confront her wounds relives them. A woman who cannot confront her cycles stays trapped in them. A woman who cannot confront the truth remains bound by lies. A woman who cannot confront dishonor continues to accept it. A woman who cannot confront manipulation continues to fall for it. A woman who cannot confront brokenness continues to attract it. Confrontation is a spiritual requirement for transformation, because you cannot defeat what you refuse to identify, and you cannot cast out what you continually entertain. God is not calling you to be aggressive, but He is calling you to be awakened. He is calling you to stop letting pain dictate your story. He is calling you to stop letting fear shape your voice. He is calling you to stop playing small to protect the comfort of others. He is calling you to stop ignoring the truth that has been screaming at your spirit. He is calling you to confront what has been controlling you. Most women avoid confrontation because they fear losing people. But the real question is this: why do you want to keep people who are harming your destiny? Why protect relationships that poison your peace? Why entertain conversations that weaken your confidence? Why keep friendships that drain your spirit? Why hold on to someone who holds you back? Why remain loyal to someone who is loyal to your pain but not loyal to your healing? Why stay committed to cycles that destroy you emotionally, spiritually, and mentally? Confrontation is not about causing conflict. It is about creating clarity. It shows you who respects you and who only respects their access to you. It reveals who values your presence and who only values your usefulness. It exposes who truly loves you and who is simply comfortable taking from you. A woman who avoids confrontation becomes a prisoner to her silence. Her unspoken truth becomes her emotional burden. Her suppressed voice becomes her internal war. Her hidden frustration becomes her spiritual weakness. When a woman cannot confront what hurts her, she grows accustomed to living in emotional survival mode. She begins to normalize disrespect. She begins to excuse manipulation. She begins to justify mistreatment. She begins to blame herself for other people's dysfunction. She begins to absorb pain that was never hers to carry. She begins to shrink her identity to keep the peace. But peace built on silence is not peace. It is emotional oppression wearing a polite mask. God is calling you to confront what has been stealing your joy. He is calling you to confront the insecurity that tells you that you are not enough. He is calling you to confront the fear that whispers that you will end up alone. He is calling you to confront the shame that keeps you chained to your past. He is calling you to confront the lies that say you must settle to be loved. He is calling you to confront the wounds that shaped your low expectations. He is calling you to confront the trauma that taught you to hide your voice. He is calling you to confront the generational patterns that trained you to accept less than what God promised. A woman who confronts herself becomes unstoppable. When she confronts her fears, she becomes courageous. When she confronts her wounds, she becomes healed. When she confronts her worth, she becomes confident. When she confronts her boundaries, she becomes protected. When she confronts her calling, she becomes powerful. When she confronts her identity, she becomes unshakable. Because confrontation is the birthplace of clarity, and clarity is the birthplace of destiny. A woman who can see clearly cannot be deceived easily. A woman who knows herself cannot be controlled by others. A woman who understands her value cannot be manipulated by attention. A woman who recognizes God's voice cannot be distracted by counterfeits. A woman who confronts her truth becomes a woman who refuses to repeat her history. The enemy fears a woman who confronts what he has been using against her. He fears a woman who confronts her excuses. He fears a woman who confronts her procrastination. He fears a woman who confronts her emotional attachments. He fears a woman who confronts the toxic version of herself she became while surviving. He fears a woman who confronts the parts of her that protected her pain instead of protecting her purpose. He fears a woman who confronts the internal voice that told her she was unworthy. He fears a woman who confronts the thoughts that made her play small. He fears a woman who confronts the lies he planted to limit her future. Because once a woman confronts the truth, she walks in the authority that God always intended for her. A woman who confronts is a woman who rises. She rises in wisdom. She rises in discernment. She rises in strength. She rises in spiritual maturity. She rises in confidence. She rises in clarity. She rises in purpose. She rises in identity. She rises in power. This is why God is calling you to confront everything that has kept you beneath your calling. You cannot rise while pretending you are not hurting. You cannot rise while ignoring what is broken. You cannot rise while excusing what is toxic. You cannot rise while avoiding what must be addressed. You cannot rise while protecting what keeps you low. God cannot elevate a woman who refuses to confront the things that contradict her destiny. Many women pray for a new season without confronting the habits that sabotage the next season. They want new relationships but keep the same low boundaries. They want new opportunities but keep the same fear. They want new direction but keep the same distractions. They want spiritual growth but keep the same emotional cycles. They want divine alignment but keep the same unhealthy attachments. They want God to open doors but refuse to shut the old ones. But elevation requires elimination. You cannot carry everything into the next chapter. Some relationships expire because your destiny demands it. Some friendships fade because your purpose exposed their intentions. Some habits die because they cannot survive where you are going. Some behaviors fall off because maturity makes them unnecessary. Some mindsets collapse because revelation destroys them. Some cycles end because healing interrupts them. A woman who refuses to confront her reality becomes stuck in rehearsing her past. She repeats stories instead of writing new ones. She relives wounds instead of allowing God to heal them. She gives chances to people who keep proving they don't deserve them. She holds on to people who keep proving they cannot grow with her. She invests in relationships that only withdraw from her. She sacrifices for people who will never sacrifice for her. She nurtures people who are spiritually assigned to break her. But a woman who confronts her truth stops repeating patterns. She stops entertaining foolishness. She stops accepting the bare minimum. She stops allowing emotional access to people who misuse it. She stops letting guilt control her decisions. She stops letting loneliness manipulate her choices. She stops letting fear silence her voice. She stops letting insecurity shape her standards. She stops letting pain guide her behavior. When a woman confronts her truth, she steps into spiritual maturity. She realizes that confrontation is not conflict. Confrontation is clarity. Confrontation is not aggression. Confrontation is alignment. Confrontation is not disrespect. Confrontation is stewardship. Confrontation is not rebellion. Confrontation is protection. Confrontation is not disobedience. Confrontation is obedience to the voice of God over the emotions of people. The woman God is raising in this season must confront her spiritual environment. She must confront the relationships that influence her decisions. She must confront the habits that weaken her purpose. She must confront the attachments that distract her calling. She must confront the emotional wounds that shape her patterns. She must confront the internal fears that shape her choices. She must confront the spiritual attacks that influence her behavior. Because elevation requires clarity, and clarity requires confrontation. The truth is, many women are not stuck because God is silent. They are stuck because they are avoiding what God is pointing at. They are stuck because they are afraid of the discomfort of truth. They are stuck because they fear who they will lose. They are stuck because they fear who they will become. They are stuck because they fear the responsibility of healing. But God is not calling you to comfort. He is calling you to transformation. And transformation begins the moment you confront the version of yourself that cannot enter your next season. A woman who refuses to confront will always remain in cycles she was born to break. She will continue living below the level God designed for her. She will continue accepting relationships that do not honor her. She will continue being influenced by people who do not value her. She will continue entertaining pain because avoiding truth feels easier. But a woman who confronts becomes a woman who evolves. She becomes a woman who no longer apologizes for her standards. She becomes a woman who no longer explains her boundaries. She becomes a woman who no longer tolerates disrespect. She becomes a woman who no longer abandons her own needs. She becomes a woman who no longer loses herself in the name of loyalty. She becomes a woman who no longer allows fear to control her life. Your elevation is waiting behind one courageous moment of confrontation. One moment where you decide to speak the truth. One moment where you choose yourself. One moment where you honor your worth. One moment where you confront what has been controlling you. One moment where you release what has been draining you. One moment where you let go of who you were to become who God designed you to be. You have spent enough seasons avoiding the truth. You have survived enough years pretending you were fine. You have carried enough pain that was not meant to be your identity. This is the moment heaven is calling you to rise. Rise above the lies. Rise above the fear. Rise above the wounds. Rise above the patterns. Rise above the people who benefit from your silence. Rise above the version of yourself that pain created. Because the woman you are becoming is stronger than the woman you used to be. She is wiser, clearer, braver, and more aligned with heaven. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop a woman who finally confronts what has been stopping her.